Hello, and welcome to another edition of Best Damn Sports New York Power Hour. I'm Peter, and this fine gentleman to my right is Luke. Luke, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you feeling, Peter? I know you weren't on the show last week. You weren't feeling well. Uh, are we feeling under the weather still, or are we feeling over the weather?
We're feeling we're about I think at the top there. We're doing all right. I'm back at work. Uh, so if I'm good enough to work, good enough. If you're good enough to go to baseball practice, you're good enough to play in the game. So we're back kicking. We're back, and glad to be back. I missed you guys last week. You guys talked a lot of shit about the Jets and a former Mets hitting coach. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you weren't on last week. I guess I'll kind of give you an opportunity. I mean, what we were talking about last week with the Jets and how they're going to treat the second overall pick.
Mhm.
What were your thoughts on some of the comments from last week about the Jets and how they should approach the
Gotcha.
second overall pick?
Well, details have changed slightly. It appears that a certain Oregon quarterback has decided to go to school, which is cool because when the Jets are 3-14 again next year, he'll be there for the taking. Quite honestly, if I'm one of the Jets executives, I'm doing one of two things. The number one thing I would try to do is go see if Joe Burrow is available from the Bengals. Just go crazy because what the fuck do you got to lose? Try that. If not, if that doesn't work out, try a 1 year bridge gap. Can't be much worse than Fields, and see if you get the first pick next year.
I agree. I mean, I know I kind of hit the nail on the head and continue to hammer it last week of, the Jets aren't going to solve their problems by drafting a quarterback second overall, particularly a quarterback like Dante Moore. I mean, he's tremendously talented, but he is not ready for the NFL. I mean, you saw that in the semifinals game against Indiana. He absolutely got picked apart by an Indiana defense that I would say is as comparable to NFL defense as you're going to see in the NCAA this season. So if that's how he's going to play, I don't think it's going to bode well season one for Dante Moore. Right now, they don't have anyone lined up to play quarterback. So, I mean, there would have been a lot of pressure for Dante Moore to play game one. I don't see that as a good fit for a young quarterback that has potential, but still needs some molding to be done. So, no, I don't think Dante Moore was the answer. I think it's a great decision for him and his draft stock. Maybe not necessarily his draft stock, but for his career to go back to Oregon, maybe settle some scores again. Sharpen up a little bit before his next year's draft. I mean, there is a possibility that he could be the number one overall draft pick next season if he continues on the trajectory that he's on. So I think it's a good decision for him. I think it's good for the Jets that option is off the table and they're not tempted to do it. I would say it kind of hurts the Jets a little bit because there are teams that are sneaking, I would say, outside the top 8 that probably want a quarterback that might feel compelled to jump up to 2 and give up some draft stock in order to take Dante Moore if they played it correctly, right? If the Jets went the whole offseason and said, oh, Dante Moore's our guy, like we're not moving on Dante Moore, that makes that draft pick a lot more valuable to anyone who's looking for it. And I'm talking about the Miami Dolphins, who are probably moving on from Tua Tagovailoa, and I'm also talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, who more than likely are going to be losing Aaron Rodgers unless he decides to run it back next season. I'm
Can we
highly.
talk about that?
What was that?
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you as a Jets fan, you got to experience Aaron Rodgers for 2 seasons. Myself as a Lions fan, I got to, watch him as a foe for a number of years. But I'll hand it off to you on your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers' performance. Maybe highlight his career a little bit and talk about give your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers and maybe what he should do.
So I don't so much want to talk about the career of Aaron Rodgers because I don't give a shit about the career of Aaron Rodgers. I've heard Aaron Rodgers talk a lot of shit about the New York Jets organization. And you know what? There's one person that really, in my personal opinion, does not have the right to, and that person is Aaron Rodgers. The Jets gave this man everything he ever asked for. Randall Cobb, you're a New York Jet. Alan Lazard, you're a New York Jet. Devontae Adams, you're a New York Jet. The keys to the franchise, here you go, Aaron. They're all yours, buddy. I don't know. I do not blame him for getting hurt 4 games into his first year as a Jet. And you know what? He's an older quarterback, and it's Achilles injury, and that shit takes time to heal. I don't blame him for that. This is football. Injuries happen. But don't you dare act like you were not given everything you wanted in New York. And you're going to act like, oh, I played for I played for 3 teams in the NFL, and 2 of them are class organizations. It's like, buddy, the Jets gave you everything you wanted. After Green Bay was done with your shit, Green Bay did not want you anymore. The Jets were like, we'll take you, and we'll take on the Aaron Rodgers, all the Aaron Rodgers bullshit, and it didn't work out. Maybe in a different world, and maybe in a different life, it does work out, but it didn't work out. I don't understand how anything that happened can be seen as the Jets' fault in that situation. It was a freak injury, and all he's done is piss and moan since. So you know what? I think it's beautiful and poetic that the last pass he's thrown in the NFL
was a touchdown pass. Touchdown pass.
Touchdown pass to the Houston Texans defense. I think that's poetic. And you know what? In a couple years, when the Hall of Fame comes up, Aaron Rodgers will probably make the Hall of Fame. But you know what? I'm just glad that the league is going to be done with him by then. And I'm sorry, in a couple of years after Aaron Rodgers gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, are we really ever going to think about him again? I know I'm not. So I'm looking forward to a league without Aaron Rodgers and his fucking bullshit and his whiny mouth.
So let me. I'll kind of contest that. I don't think the league is going to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. I think the league is going to get rid of Aaron Rodgers playing on Sundays and sometimes Mondays, and then sometimes Thursdays and maybe Fridays and Saturdays, depending on the time of year. No, he's not going to be playing, on an NFL field for the foreseeable future. If not next season, definitely the following season is going to be his end. But he is such a personality, right? Like him or not, that he will not give his commentary on what is going on in the NFL. I'm sure he will find a landing spot somewhere in the media, giving his opinions on what's going on in the NFL, because he's never short. He's never short of those. So no, the NFL is not going to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. You will still hear from Aaron Rodgers. You will hear about Aaron Rodgers for years to come.
He said himself after he retired from the NFL, he's never going to hear from him again. Now, is he the most trustworthy source? Probably not. No. I'm sure he'll still show up on the Pat McAfee show or whatever.
Absolutely. No, there is no chance in hell that you're going to find Aaron Rodgers just shutting his mouth on things and not giving his opinion. So I'm sorry, Peter. I just don't see a world where Aaron Rodgers isn't involved with the NFL in some kind of capacity.
I don't pay attention to much of the media stuff, so it won't really matter.
Fair enough.
It's a wonderful show.
And I think the other thing too, and I think you bring up a good point. I mean, the Jets jumped at Aaron Rodgers, right? After Green Bay was so willing to part ways after, a long and very, very prosperous years with Green Bay. A lot of accolades with the Packers, and they were willing to part ways and move on. Jordan Love became the heir apparent, and Matt LaFleur didn't want to work with Aaron Rodgers anymore. And the Jets jumped right up and said, "Hey, we'll take you in."
As they should have, to be fair.
No, absolutely, and I don't blame. I mean, in terms of skill wise, absolutely. I mean, absolutely, the Jets should have jumped up and grabbed at Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson was not the answer. It was very clear very early on that he is not an NFL quarterback. He just lacked the skills. He absolutely lacked the skills to be an NFL quarterback. How he became a top pick in a draft is still beyond me. But that's really for the Jets brass to try and figure out how that happened and how that dumpster fire came to be. Luckily, that regime isn't there anymore, so maybe the new regime has learned from those mistakes and won't make them again. I know you shake your head, and I shake my head internally as well about the Jets drafting, but no, for skill wise and what the team needed at the time, yeah, Aaron Rodgers filled the role. I would say in terms of leadership and off the field and in the locker room, he's absolutely horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. I mean, he's
good until he's not, until something doesn't go his way.
Absolutely. But that's not leadership, Peter. That's not leadership. That's not what you need from a quarterback. If you want to be a leader, you need to ride the ebbs and flows of the season. You need to be there for the highs and the lows. And if you're going to abandon your players, if you're going to abandon your team at the lows, I'm sorry, you are the worst of the worst leaders, because you're fake. Like you are a fake person if you can't ride out the lows with the rest of the team. And that's the guy who Aaron Rodgers is. I mean, we've seen it time and time again, pointing fingers, whether it's at other players, whether it's at management, because he doesn't have the proper personnel. That's who Aaron Rodgers is. That's who he is. Mm-hmm. So skill-wise, it made sense to bring him in, but leadership-wise, that is not what the team needed. Absolutely not what the team needed. And the record showed it. The record absolutely showed it. You kind of saw the same thing with the Steelers this year, and they just kind of rode the wave. I think Mike Tomlin has a better presence in the locker room that maybe mitigates Aaron Rodgers a little bit. I think maybe not being the first pick at prom during the offseason maybe humbled him a little bit. Taking less money in order to play in Pittsburgh humbled him a little bit, but he's still Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's still Aaron Rodgers, the guy who's going to yell at an offensive lineman for jumping up and down around him and accidentally tackling him after they made probably one of the most improbable plays you could make at the end of a game. So that's just who Aaron Rodgers is. I have very, very little respect for him as a human being. He is a phenomenal football player. He has all the accolades. He has all the accomplishments to be a Hall of Famer. I can't live with the personality. I just can't live with the personality. So, best of luck to him. We'll move on from there. Peter, I'm assuming you watched that wild card game. What were your thoughts on the Texans defense and how they dominated?
That looked like a real defense, that Texans defense. I'd be lying to you if I paid much attention to them this year. I really haven't. For my own mental health, I've tried to stay away from football the past couple of weeks there. But, I'm very excited to see what if Drake May can beat the Texans. I mean, I feel like they haven't really played it. The Patriots haven't really played anybody that good. The teams that they beat all have a losing record combined. So this is going to be their first big test in the playoffs, I think. So we'll see. We're going to see what he's made of.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for his downfall.
I know you were bitter towards the Pats. I know your interest is more so towards hate watching the Pats and hoping that they're going to lose, not so much that the Texans are going to win.
Yes.
And that's great. That's just the Jets fan in you, and I appreciate that. The Texans defense looks great. And it's built a lot through the draft, and I think there's a lot that the Jets can learn from this, right? And I want to go back to the second overall pick because again, the play was if Dante Moore was an option, I'd be spitting out, hey, Dante Moore is our guy, he's our guy. If you want him, you got to pay a price for him, and really sell that pick. Now that he's not there. If someone's really desperate for defensive help, I would absolutely move back and try to just try to accumulate as much draft capital as you possibly can. If not, the guy's Avril Reese. defensive lineman out of Ohio State. He has all of the tools to come in day one and be absolutely dominant on the defensive line, on the edge for the Jets. That's a start. That's a start for the Jets, who need a lot of help on both sides of the ball. And if you can get some kind of dominance on the edge, I think that starts moving the defense in the right direction. Peter, what are your thoughts right now?
For me, right school, wrong player.
Okay.
Give me Cardell Tate with the second overall pick. You shake your head, but let me explain why. Can I explain my reasoning?
Go ahead, please.
If there's one thing that the Jets were good at defense last year, it was the defensive line. They had a good defensive line. Granted, they weren't 100% healthy, but they have some players there that I feel relatively excited about. Jeremiah Jones being the number one guy right now there. The Jets on offense, their leading receiver was Garrett Wilson with under 400 yards, and this is a player that missed week 6 onwards. You have no number 2 wide receiver. You have Garrett Wilson, and you have Breece Hall. That's your offense right now. If you're going to get success with a quarterback there, you need weapons around him. We saw with Jackson Dart, he looked good until the weapons started to get hurt, and then he got hurt. Obviously, there's still a lot of excitement there with him. So, if you eventually get a quarterback in here, you're going to need weapons to throw the ball. The Jets' offensive line is good. You don't need to drop another offensive lineman. Arguably, he would last year, the lineman you drafted was the best graded rookie of last year. So, your offensive line's pretty stout. I think you need to do something bold and crazy. I cannot remember the last time the Jets drafted an offensive player that wasn't a quarterback. So let's go for it. You have the second round pick. You have two other first round picks this year. You have one other first round pick this year, a second round pick this year, and 2 first round picks next year. You already have the draft capital. I don't think you need to trade back for more. Let's just get weird with it. Let's take a shot. Is it a risky shot? Sure, but you know what? You got to try something, and I think that this could shake it up a little bit.
So I'm looking at top receivers in terms of yardage this year. Only one, and I think I've gotten all the way down to top 15. Only one was drafted in the top 5, and that was Jamar Chase.
Who we would all willingly take.
I would take him 1-1 in almost any draft unless there are other quarterbacks that are available. Some other notable names. I want to say Chris Olave was also drafted in the first round. Jameson Williams also in the first round. Justin Jefferson towards the later part. CeeDee Lamb in the later part. The Jets have this. Was it the 16th or the 17th pick?
Yes.
I would be targeting a wide receiver in that position. I think there's plenty of depth at the wide receiver spot. You see a lot of teams second, third, even fourth round getting now their top receivers. You look at a guy like Nakua, you look at St. Brown, you look at Nico Collins. Actually, let me confirm Nico Collins. I think he was a third round pick. There's plenty out there that you don't need to use your second overall pick to get who you think is the guy, right, at wide receiver and fill a hole that doesn't necessarily need to be filled, right? You already have Garrett Wilson, right? You have your 1-1, you have your guy. I think you still have under control for 1 more year or 2 more years.
He signed a contract. I think he's under control for 4 more years.
So you have him under control for another 4 years. I think there's better opportunities again out of the 16th. I can't remember if it was the 16th or the 17th overall pick to try and grab a wide receiver. Your wide receiver 2, right? Which is the role you're trying to fill. I would be looking more impact again, edge or possibly offensive line. Those would be the two impact for this particular draft. Again, I don't think there's a quarterback to take it to unless for some reason Las Vegas decides to pass on Fernando Mendoza. Then we can have those discussions on, the Jets might want to go after Mendoza and absolutely ruin.
There's a chance that the Raiders might try to be the smartest team in the room and not draft Mendoza. Now, if they don't, they're probably going to trade back to somebody that will.
Yeah,
but we'll see what happens. I've seen weirder things.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting draft because I know it's
traded. He's probably going to end up.
He will. I will say more than likely he will get drafted by the Las Vegas Raiders. Geno Smith, I think, has really flamed out. He was above average quarterback for the Seahawks. Got his contract. Started to taper off a little bit. Got traded to Las Vegas, and I think the wheels really fell off last season. I don't think there's a lot of faith in Geno Smith in Las Vegas right now. I don't think there's a lot out in the free agent market for the Raiders to go out and get, unless, again, they're willing to trade out, again, a name like Tua Tagovailoa, a name like Joe Burrow, as you had mentioned earlier. Joe
Flacco was a free agent.
Joe Flacco is a free agent. Malik Willis is also Willis. Yeah, Malik Willis is also a free agent. So I know that's been thrown out as an interesting option. Kyler Murray could be another trade option for any team that's looking for a veteran quarterback. So there's options. I think for the Raiders, I think Fernando Mendoza is probably the best option for them and kind of get a good restart. But just like the Jets, there are a lot of holes to fill in that Vegas roster. So I wouldn't be surprised if they also look to trade back and try to build some draft capital.
Well, so just the Jets did actually sign a quarterback a couple days ago.
Yeah,
one Brady Zappi.
Bailey Zappi.
Him too, yeah. Bailey Zappi.
Bailey Zappi. I love Bailey Zappi. He played for the Patriots. Very decorated quarterback for the NCAA. I think he threw for the most passing yards in his senior season. Former Hilltopper for Western Kentucky. It's an option for them. I love Bailey Zappi. I think that's a great signing for them.
He's the best quarterback they have, even if you consider the quarterback they had last year.
I think the Pats should have given him more of an opportunity, but I'll kind of eat my words there because Drake May worked out pretty well for them right now. So good for them. Good for the Jets. I like that signing. I like that Zappi signing. That's a good signing.
I'm more, I am genuinely more excited about Zappi than I ever was about Fields.
Yeah. No, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as Ram. Like, I think there was some excitement for me for Justin Fields. There was skepticism. I'll admit there was some skepticism given his previous track record, particularly with the Bears. He's not a quarterback that's winning games, right? So yeah, I think there was some excitement just given his abilities, to run and throw, and be a dual threat. But I think the worst of Justin Fields came out.
Can you just tell me I was right?
You were right. I mean, you were absolutely right. I mean, I would say week 1 was a total mirage for Justin Fields. I think you can admit after watching week 1, there was a little bit of excitement, right? Like,
honestly, no.
It was a close game. He threw very well. He played very well against a very well coached team in the Pittsburgh Steelers, in a playoff team in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, listen, but I've seen that song before. I've seen it, and I know how it's going to end. And man, 3 wins. It's
Yeah.
hard to be. Listen, it's hard to feel it. Listen, I understand. You're a Lions fan, and there's this new sense of optimism in Detroit, but like, it's real hard to feel anything with this fucking team, man.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. But there was definitely a little spark. There had to be a little spark there. No, okay. I won't push you. I won't push you. I won't push you any further.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to listen. I'm trying to be as honest as I can. Call me a Debbie Downer. That's fine. Like, I'll never forget the year we signed Aaron Rodgers. He goes down four games into 4 plays into the game. The Jets actually won that game in overtime against the Bills, and I'll never forget. It was a punt return for a touchdown. I'll never forget. At that point, I knew the playoffs was done. The playoffs Jets were not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
But for a moment, it was like, this was fun.
I know. Talking with Jets fans that season too. I mean, you all were kind of teetering near a playoff spot all throughout the seasons, and I just remember Jets fans saying, Aaron's gonna come back from this injury, and we're gonna dominate the back half, and we're gonna find our way in the playoffs. And
that's what Aaron kept telling everybody.
Right. And I love those Jets fans who just ate all that up, just to be disappointed once again. And not just disappointed by the Jets, but I love that they were disappointed by Aaron Rodgers. That makes me happy. Not that the Jets didn't make the playoffs and Jets fans were sad and Peter, you were sad. That doesn't make me happy. But what makes me happy is that Aaron Rodgers made a promise and he didn't keep it.
If it makes you feel any better, after the Jets signed Aaron Rodgers, listening to New York sports talk radio, all the people being like, Super Bowl or bust. I was like, can we make the playoffs first? Like, we haven't made the playoffs in 15 years. I don't think we're allowed to say Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah. So, I think we'll kind of move away from the Jets sad talk. I know you're excited about that. We can briefly talk about the Giants. They have the 5th or 6th overall pick. They should have the 1st overall pick. But they just had to beat the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't know what differently you do with the 1st overall pick than the 5th or 6th. Maybe move out and gain some more draft capital. But I think it's very much pointing towards the Giants taking a wide receiver, whether it's Tate or Tyson. In this case, I want to go after my wide receiver too, especially with Malik Neighbors coming back from a pretty serious injury. He's getting towards the end of his rookie contract. And you want to give as many options for Jackson Dart as possible. Get a healthy Cam Scatterboot back. You'll have Theo Johnson to throw to. You'll have Neighbors, and hopefully either Tate or Tyson who can just hop right into the Giants offense. And whatever that Giants offense looks like. I mean, they haven't hired a head coach yet, right? The former head coach was fired in the middle of the season, and they haven't found their option yet. But there's plenty of them, and there's no head coaches that have been hired yet. So I'm sure they're doing their due diligence. A lot of people are talking, Harbaugh as the favorite for Giants fans to bring in. Personally, I like, for me, and I didn't like him in Arizona very much, but I'm a huge fan of them bringing in Cliff Kingsbury. He looked, he brought Jaden Daniels, had Jaden Daniels with the Commanders last season, the season prior. And they were one of the best offenses in the NFL. And, as a dual threat, Jaden Daniels can also be dual threat for Jackson Dart. You see a lot of similarities there. So I think Kingsbury would be another good option for the Giants if they miss out on the Harbaugh sweepstakes. So a lot going on the Giants front. Luckily, the Jets don't have to hire a head coach. They just got to focus on their 2nd overall pick.
Let me tell you, Luke, we are 100% in agreement. I think the Giants also should draft wide receivers, especially if the Jets don't get Caldwell. Yeah, you want as many weapons as you can there for Jackson Dart. He looked really good, and you can never have enough weapons. So I think you just got to load this kid up on that side of the ball. You drafted him for a reason.
Yeah,
give him the reins and give him as many toys to play with.
Yeah, I think maybe the other option is bolstering the offensive line, giving him a little bit more protection. I could definitely see that argument as well. So I wouldn't be upset with that if I was a Giants fan. I think the defensive line, again, I know I've talked so highly of this front seven, and again, I think the secondary is better addressed maybe later in the draft or with some veteran presence. And I don't know what their cap space looks like, but I think they should have enough cap to be bringing in a couple guys, especially with their quarterback on a rookie deal. So I think there's a lot to be optimistic about for as a Giants fan. I think it's a very hot, really just a hot place for a head coach to want to be. I mean, you have all the weapons on the offensive side. You have all the weapons on the defensive side. It's just getting them to play 4 quarters of football and finishing the game. Because there were plenty of games this season where the Giants could have won and they just didn't finish. I mean, they lost to the Saints in the fourth quarter. They lost to the Broncos in the fourth quarter. They lost in overtime to the Cowboys. I mean, you start flipping that season around, you're starting to look like a contender in the NFC East as opposed to flaming out by the trade deadline.
Yeah,
so
I think John Harbaugh would be a great hire for them. I think that he would turn it around immediately, but we'll see if he wants to go there. He kind of has his pick. It seems like Tomlin wants a break, so to me, Harbaugh is the belle of the ball for the NFL coaching hires.
Absolutely. So we'll see what the Giants do. I think that's enough Giants and Jets talk. We'll go from Jets to the New York Mets.
You want to start with the Mets? You want to start with the Yankees?
No, let's start with the Mets. I'm intrigued with the storyline right now with the New York Mets. $50 million a year for Kyle Tucker, Peter. What are your thoughts on this possible deal that's impending?
So my thoughts are, I thought it was interesting because the Mets have been very quiet all offseason about what's going on. You won't hear about anything until the players signed already. So that tells me that Kyle Tucker's camp probably leaked this out. They probably got a 3-year offer for $50 million. And Kyle Tucker and his agent went, anyone want to beat or match this? Any takers?
Yeah.
I'll go to you. Okay. And so we'll see. We'll see if other teams take it. Allegedly, the Mets offered to go up to 4 years. Really, I think the key to this is going to be the opt-outs. When does he give an opt-outs, if at all? I'm sure there are, probably after 1 or 2 years. But then, of course, there's always the pesky Dodgers, and they probably don't need to offer as much money as, say, the Mets or the Yankees do. If you go to the Dodgers for 2 years, you feel like you can almost guarantee getting a ring. So does he want to go for the most money? Does he want to go for the ring? If he's going for the money, getting it short, it doesn't seem like anyone wants to give out a long-term deal with the instability of the CBA. So it seems like a 3-year deal with an opt-out is probably the smart way to go if you were him. You sign a 3-year deal, you're still 31 at the end of it. So you're going to get at least one more big contract, if not 2. So if I'm Kyle Tucker and I'm just thinking about the money, if the Mets are willing to go 4 for 2 with an opt-out after 1 or 2 years, I think that's enough for me. You get to play with Juan Soto for a year. He's shown he makes the people around him better, with the exception of maybe Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani. Are you really playing with a better bat anywhere else? Probably not. And that probably takes your lineup to, as of right now, maybe the 10th best lineup in the NL to probably the 2nd or 3rd. So it would totally change the dynamic of the Mets offseason as well.
Yeah. No, I said this. I said this yesterday. I don't hate the Mets lineup anymore. If you bring Kyle Tucker in,
Mhm.
my first reaction was, and it's very very similar to the Yankees here. It screams redundancy, right? Bringing in Kyle Tucker. You already have Juan Soto. You already have Juan Soto in right field, right? Why have two right fielders? If Tucker's willing to play left field, if your goal is to move Juan Soto to first base, to give each of them time to rest and play them on DH, then yeah, you have a very strong platoon of outfielders,
Well,
right?
didn't Soto play a lot of left field with his time with the Padres? So I feel like he would be the one that would probably move to left field.
I possibly, possibly. I'm sure. I'm sure those discussions can be had. Who feels more comfortable in left field? Who's more comfortable in right? Um, the main thing is right. It looks like if the Mets are bringing Kyle Tucker in, it seems like after moving Jeff McNeil, it seems like they're very comfortable with Taylor in center or Carson Bench, and they feel like Carson Bench is ready to make the step up into the majors, right? So now you have this platoon of four outfielders: Kyle Tucker, Juan Soto, Carson Bench, and Taylor. I think that's solid. I think that's extremely solid. And it basically becomes a platoon of players, and I think the full blueprint that the Mets GM is trying to put together here is starting to show for me, right? It's a lineup of versatility. It's a lineup of being able to give guys rest days, right? You have Jorge Polanco who can play second base. You also have Marcus Semien who can play second base. You have Brett Beatty who can play second base. You have Brett Beatty who can play third base. You have Ronnie Mauricio who can play third base. You have Luis Angel Acuna who can play third, short, second. He can play center field. He becomes your utility guy. I'm assuming Polanco is going to play first base. They're probably going to give him time. Mark Vientos can play first base. I don't know, Peter. Is there discussion about Alvey playing first base? Right?
No, I haven't heard anything. I think that's crazy.
Then you still have Lloris. You still have Terens as your backup catcher, and Francisco Lindor is your shortstop, and hopefully he's going to play 150 plus games, right? Because that's the kind of player that Lindor is, right? Soto, hopefully you're going to get 150 plus games, and maybe 25% of the time he's going to be DH, right? Give some time for Semien to play DH. Give some time for Polanco to play DH. Give Kyle Tucker some time to play DH. You see the versatility that's being developed here in this roster on the offensive side. So I think the Tucker deal makes sense as long as Steve Cohen is willing to pay that $50 million, and there's no doubt in my mind he is willing to pay that $50 million if it gets them closer to a championship.
100%. You sign Kyle Tucker, you feel a lot more comfortable. A lot of things you feel more comfortable with Tyrone Taylor being your starting center fielder, because you know what, it's fine. He can bat ninth. You feel a lot more comfortable with Jorge Polanco playing first base. When the Mets traded for Semien, me and you sat on here and we're like, in a vacuum, it doesn't make much sense. We'll see how it works with other moves. If you can get Kyle Tucker,
it makes sense.
Yes, like you said,
it really all starts to make sense. And someone who I was kind of meh about was Jorge Polanco. I mean, you look at his offensive numbers; they're very good. Mm-hmm. They're very good for a player who's been playing in Seattle for the last 2 seasons. Before he was in Seattle, he was a great hitter in Minnesota. So there's a ton of potential with Jorge Polanco as well. I think the only thing that trips me, I think there's 2 things that trip me up with the Mets lineup right now. It's age, right? Given Marcus Semien's age, given Jorge Polanco's age, I hate to say this, Lindor's starting to get up there in age as well. So I think you have 3 options that are going to be shifting in and out of the lineup, in and out of the IL, as well as Juan. I don't want to say Juan Soto's old. I mean, he's
No,
20. He just I don't know, Peter.
He's been around since he's like 19.
Exactly. Yeah. He feels so old because he's been in the league so long, but he's not even 30 yet. Yeah. He's not even 30 yet. Everyone's like, oh, he should go play DH. He should go play first base. Like, bro, he's like 27. Yeah. 28 years old. Like,
and a lot of people, one player that no one's really talking about, but for some reason, the Steamer projections love this kid, Mark Vientos. They are projecting a 28 home run, like 92 RBI season. I don't see it personally. I don't see it. I don't think it's happening. But if you're a big Steamer projection guy from Fantrax, maybe look to buy Vientos cheap in fantasy before he gets hot, because it probably won't, but maybe.
I hope Ram is somewhere watching this show and just like cussing your name right now, because I can't buy Mark Vientos and like the 1 month he was good. Like,
it was 2 months.
It was 2 months. And at that time, at some points in those 2 months, he was the second best hitter on the Mets.
There was a point where he was the best hitter of the Mets. Probably. Never forget the NLCS. Probably. The Dodgers walked Lindor to get to Vientos, and Vientos hit a grand slam.
And that'll be the highlight. That'll be the highlight of his career. That will absolutely be the highlight of his career. So I think there's a lot moving with the Mets. I think there's been a lot of things addressed on the bullpen. You have your closer in Devin Williams. You have your setup guy in Luke Weaver. Maybe find some pieces to bridge that gap there.
I love the bullpen.
You love the bullpen.
Yes,
you love the bullpen.
While I believe that with Diaz there, it was probably stronger, but I think as the sum to parts, it's a better bullpen than it was last year. I think, with the exception of Diaz, if you look at the players that are there this year as opposed to last year, you probably take the bullpen this year. I can't tell you how, especially towards the end of the season, I can't tell you how many Mets games would go without seeing Edwin Diaz because the Mets couldn't bridge the gap to him, and it would be blowout, and they didn't bring him in because what was the point of wasting him when it's 8-0?
Right.
So Diaz is great. I think he's one of the best, if not the best, closer in baseball. But if you can't get to him with a lead, there's no point in having him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think in terms of depth is a much better bullpen. I think they're way too reliant on Edwin Diaz. You saw a lot of times Mendoza going eighth, start of the 8th inning to Diaz. And
isn't that just kind of a shift in baseball idea though? Like if the best guys in the lineup are in the bottom of the 8th, put your closer there. To be fair to Mendoza, that's
a new age thing. I agree with that. I mean, I agree with that has been the trend over the last couple of years. But a lot of the times it was just, all right, we're going to pitch him 1 inning, and then we'll go to our setup man in the 9th, right? A lot of the times it was Mendoza. All right, Diaz, you're going to pitch the 8th. And we're going to pitch the 9th because we don't really have someone that I feel confident enough to throw in the 9th other than you. And I don't know if I'm just cherry picking examples, but there were definitely a couple of games I've watched and I kind of scratched my head and said, why is, it makes sense. It makes sense. Diaz is your best pitcher. And if he can handle 2 innings, absolutely do it. But you become way too dependent on him.
No, you're not misremembering. It happened a lot.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure.
He did have the ability to have 6-out saves, but they did have to rely on him on a lot of those.
Right. Yeah. And so I agree. I think there's a lot more depth in the bullpen. I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts on the starting rotation is right now.
I think it's a work in progress.
I think there's definitely potential. I think there's definitely potential. You and I are both high on Nolan McLean. I refuse to trade him in fantasy baseball. I think you refuse to trade him in fantasy baseball. The only way I'm trading Nolan McLean is if I'm trading him to Rutgers and Rutgers is sending him back to me. I want to make that statement very clear. But after that, what's to be desired for the Mets rotation?
So, honestly, if you're the Mets, you have a lot of options. Now, we had a lot of options last year. They quickly went away. You would hope that David Peterson can figure out a way to be half the pitcher, somewhere in that sweet spot of what he was last year, because he was at some points really good. Our dear friend Ram rode him to a conference championship, and he was terrible in the second half of the season. Kodai Senga at one point had the best ERA in baseball.
Yep.
Then Pete Alonso forgot how to throw to first. He tore he got hurt, his calf or whatever. It was never the same. So you would hope that there's a middle ground there with some of these guys. Most people think McLean's going to be a stud. Jonah Tong, if he did not pitch at all last season, would be the most untouchable prospect in baseball right now. The Mets brought him up a little too early, I think, and it hurt some of his shine, but he's still Jonah Tong. So I expect him to see him at some point being electric. Brandon Sproat, kind of the forgotten man in that. He was the Mets' #1 pitching prospect at a time. I expect him at least to start as a swingman this season. Probably the biggest question mark is Christian Scott. Yeah. If you can get a healthy Christian, even before Brandon Sproat, it was Christian Scott. People were just as excited. I'll never forget. I called off. I called off. I think I switched shifts at work so I could watch Christian Scott's MLB debut. That's how excited I was for him. So, if he's there, if Senga, you have the pieces. It's if they can put it together, and you have the opportunity to have a very young starting lineup, flanked with some nice veteran experience. Again, another guy I didn't even talk about yet, Sean Manaea. You brought him in last year in a 3-year deal. He was expected to kind of be the ace, and he wasn't able to get healthy. Even if you piggyback him off one of the young guys, like you did last year when it showed some success. You hope you're going to get something out of him. Am I still confident in the Mets starting lineup? No, because they have, besides McLean, they haven't given me much of a reason to be. But I think they have. They can't these players that pitched last year that were highly disappointing. They have to regress back to what they were at some point, which is pretty damn good pitchers. So you hope you get that, or just trade for Freddie Peralta, and everything will be fine.
Yeah. Who's your opening day starter right now?
Oh, Nolan McLean.
Yeah, I have to agree, and I'm not in love with the Mets rotation. I think there's a lot more. Let's hope. Let's wait and see. And that was the notion last offseason with the Mets rotation, right? Sean Manaea, Griffin Canning. I think there was a lot more confidence with Kodai Senga that has now turned into question marks. And it worked out. Clay Holmes, right? Clay Holmes is, hey, let's hope,
It probably worked. That was probably the Mets' best pitching signing last year.
Yeah. He consistently got you 5 innings for 75% of the season. And then that last quarter of the season, he couldn't even get past 3 innings. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, but we kind of expected that.
Right. Right. And I hope the Mets have built up enough of an arsenal of starting pitching that they start shifting him back to the bullpen. But we'll see. We'll see if it becomes that tandem of Manaea and Holmes, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't feel confident that Manaea can pitch a solid 6 innings, and that Clay Holmes isn't going to get you 6 innings. Piggyback them together, right? I don't know. It's just there are pieces to be desired from the Mets in terms of pitching. It just seems like it's more hopeful than sturdy for them.
Hey, I do not disagree with you. There's definitely a lot of, has the potential to be good, but ultimately it's up to the players. But there is another team in New York that I actually feel really good about their starting pitching, and I think it's probably the best part of their team right now, and that's the Yankees. Luke, who do you think is gonna be the starting five going into the season?
Well, you're not going to have Garrett Cole to start the season. You're not going to have Carlos Rodon to start the season. So you're going to turn to Max Fried not game one, but opening day. You're probably looking at Cam Schlittler as your number 2 right now.
That's the guy that I'm most excited about.
You are probably looking at Schlittler as number 2. I don't think Clark Schmidt is going to be back to start the season. So you probably are looking at Luis Heel, Will Warren, and last but not least, newly acquired Ryan Weathers, rounding out your rotation.
How do you feel about that trade, Luke?
I don't hate it. I think it's a lot of lottery draft picks for Ryan Weathers, who you still have 3 more years of control with. He's a hard throwing left-hander, and I did not realize that about him. I was looking at a Savant page. His fastball averages about 95 to 96 miles per hour. His run value on his fastball is below average for the league. And this is for 2024 when he did pitch a full season. He did not pitch a full season last season. He was hurt for a lot of the year. So there's that question mark as well. Very good velocity for a left-handed pitcher. Again, 95 to 96, not a great run value on his fastball, but great run value on his off-speed pitch. So I don't know, maybe there's something that the Yankees can rework with him. They saw success with, working with Carlos Rodon. They found something in him, another hard throwing left-hander. I won't give the Yankees credit for Max Fried. Max Fried was a top-tier pitcher before he signed with the New York Yankees. So I don't think there was much to retool there. But hopefully they can find something in Ryan Weathers. And you gave up a bunch of lottery prospects for a guy who's going to start the season as probably your 4th or 5th starter, and kind of bridge the gap until you get Rodon back, until you get Garrett Cole back, until you get Clark Schmidt back. At full health, this rotation is dangerous. It's dangerous and it's deep, and that's what you need. I mean, that is what you need for a season. You need to tap 6 or 7 guys on the shoulder and say, hey, at some point this year, you are going to pitch an MLB game. I think the Yankees have done a really good job building depth at starting pitching, and there is plenty of depth to be found in starting pitching in the AL East. The Blue Jays have done it. I know we've talked about it in previous podcasts, and the Red Sox made a move today to bolster their depth in the starting pitching as well. I think it definitely rivals with the Yankees and the Blue Jays as one of the best rotations in the American League right now. You're looking at a team that has Garrett Crochet, who finished 2nd in the Cy Young. You have Brian Bello, who's on the up and up. I'm not a huge fan of him for fantasy value. But he has that dog. I have heard that he has that dog in him, but that itself doesn't really turn into fantasy value for a player. But he is a very consistent pitcher. He can eat up innings. He had a very low ERA, even though his strikeout numbers are low. You bring in Sonny Gray, you bring in veteran presence, and now you bring in Ranger Suarez, who is an above average pitcher in the 3 spot. And not to mention, you also have Connolly Early, who has shown that he can be an MLB pitcher as long as the prospect Tolley, who maybe has some refining to do, but is definitely on track to be an MLB pitcher. Along with, and I'm starting to get long-winded here because of so much depth in all of the pitching in the AL East, in Johan Oviedo, who has shown flashes of being a very good starting pitcher. So a lot to be desired from the Red Sox, a lot to be desired from the Blue Jays. The Yankees are doing the same thing. bolstering up the starting pitching. So hey, that's the move we made. That is the move.
It was a good move. I think it was a good move.
That was the move we made this offseason.
I don't think the Yankees are done. I don't think they can be done so far. The only real bat you brought in was what? Ahmed Rosario. So listen.
Hey, no. We brought back one of the best center fielders in baseball this offseason.
Who's that, Luke?
We brought back Trent Grisham.
Oh, that's right. I think you're kind of mad that he took the qualifying offer, but
no, I'm not mad. No,
not you, but I think the Yankees are mad about it.
I think the Yankees are mad. And I don't know why you're mad about it. I don't know why you're mad about it. That's why that's there. He is exercising his right. Amen. And I don't blame him for it.
I don't blame him either. I'm a pro player. Get him all the money.
Yeah. Get that bag.
I'm going to do something that I very rarely do on the show, and if Ram was here, I probably wouldn't do it. But I'm going to defend the Yankees for a second.
Do it.
Apparently, it came out that Cody Bellinger wants a 7-year deal. Mr. Bellinger, are you out of your goddamn mind? A 7-year deal? Are you out of your fucking mind? The Mets owner is worth $14 billion. I wouldn't give you seven years. Take 3 like everybody else. What the fuck are you doing? You're insane. Scott Boras is an idiot. Stop listening to that man. Get some help. Take the 3-year deal with the Yankees. Go resign. Your swing is degrading, and it is perfect for Yankee Stadium. You were built to hit Yankee Stadium over a full season. Just go back. Okay?
Yeah.
Do it. You're dumb.
I think everything I've read right now, I think the Yankees are just about ready to move on from Cody Bellinger.
As they should. It's ridiculous.
They don't. You don't really have time for these kind of games. And this is what's going to happen, because this is what happens to Scott Boras clients. He's going to ask for the world, and no team is going to want to agree to that. And he's going to hold out. Yep, he's going to hold out, and he's going to hold out, and he's going to hold out, and it's going to be a week before spring training, and he's going to say, "Well, we got a 1 or 2 year deal done. We maximized his AAV. They'll probably pay above market in terms of salary per year. They'll probably have opt-outs in there, and he'll get his money, and he'll move on to the next client that they can bug MLB teams next offseason.
But don't get me wrong. Listen, if you're giving Cody Bellinger a 3-year deal, I'd be fine with going over his AAV, what he should get. It's on a 3-year deal. Give him a 3-year with opt-outs again. But 7 is ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
he does not deserve that, and I give props to the Yankees for holding strong.
Yeah, no, and I think the Yankees all along had that mentality. Again, I know I've said this before, but they've been burned with the tail end of long-term contracts. Most recently with DJ LeMahieu. I think they're learning from that. I think they're trying to get away from that. And again, I give a lot of kudos to the Yankees for not giving in, just because he asked for the 7 years.
Because at this point, and it goes with the Mets too. At this point, you're literally betting against yourself.
Yeah.
Wait for the market to dictate what the market's going to do, and then strike. And you know what? If someone's dumb enough to offer Cody Bellinger a 7-year contract, God bless him.
Yeah,
good for you. But it ain't going to be my team, and it shouldn't be your fucking team either.
No, I would be upset. I would be upset if the Yankees signed him to a 7-year deal. A lot more upset than people should be about Trent Grisham, taking the qualifying offer for $22 million. So, I think, and kind of shift gears. I know we're almost at an hour. I think we have two more New York sports teams that we haven't talked about, and I'll be brief with one of them because they suck. They're awful.
Yeah, I know who you're going to talk about.
And, on the topic of Cody Bellinger and 7 years deals, that's the big problem with the New York Rangers right now. And everyone wanted to give Chris Drury his flowers for, getting Adam Fox, for getting Trocheck, signing these guys to long-term deals. But the fact of the matter is you're stuck with these guys now. You're stuck with them, and you can't win with them. you've built and on top of that, you've built a culture that you're willing to move guys.
Yeah.
You have no stability in your roster. And here you are approaching the Olympic break, and this team is not poised for the playoffs at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you lost 10-2 to Boston this past weekend. I had to sit and watch that. Like, I had to sit and watch the New York Rangers. And the worst part is I turned it on. I turned it on at the end of the first period, and it was 2-1. They went to commercial break for the end of the first period, and they had to turn it back on because apparently the Bruins had scored. Apparently the Bruins scored, and they had to bring everyone back out on the ice to play the last 30 seconds because 30 seconds before the buzzer went off, the Bruins scored. So I turned on the game at 3-1, and I think around 8-2 I turned the game off. This is not a good team. Like, it's just objectively not a good team. It wasn't a team to be excited about going into the season, and I don't know what the plan is. According to reports, James Dolan is on board with whatever Chris Drury is willing to do. Whether it's trying to build this team up for the playoffs, which is wild to me. Absolutely wild that anyone could ever consider that they're a piece or two away from making the playoffs. So I don't know. I hope there's a retool in the near future. I have this very, very strong suspicion that Artemi Panarin will not be a blue shirt for the remainder of the season. A lot of that hinges on his no trade clause, but if the Rangers are not within striking distance for the playoffs, I have to imagine he wants the opportunity to play for a playoff team and build up his stock for free agency this offseason. So I can definitely see him waiving his no trade clause. And I don't know who else is going to be a casualty of the trade deadline if the Rangers are movers. I can't imagine JT Miller would move. The fact that they just got him last season and just named him captain. But I mean, I know how much the Rangers love to trade their captain, so I wouldn't cross his name off just yet. So I don't know. I don't know who's going to be on the move. You've moved so many assets over the last couple of years that anyone is really an option. Peter, do you have any other thoughts? Anything contrary to what I'm saying here about the New York Rangers? Right?
No. I have a good friend of mine she's a big Bruins fan, and she texted me the score, and I thought it was a joke at first. It's like, that's a joke. 10 you give up 10 goals. Like, I know Shesterkin's hurt, but like, fuck. But a quick update on the other team in New York.
Yeah,
New York Knickerbockers. They are currently down 64-48 against the Kings. 9 minutes into the third quarter as we speak. The last 10 games, they're 5-5. They are currently second in the East, 3.5 games behind the Pistons, and a game up against the Celtics for third. So, things are looking better. Still a little bit of inconsistency, but, as they're finding their footing with this new coach and the new system, the players have adjusted well overall, and hopefully that's a trend that continues upward.
Yeah, I wish Ram was here because he's definitely our expert on NBA and the Knicks. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure if he was here right now, I mean, you're 29 games into the season, right? You're starting to approach that midway point. I mean, when does it no longer become an excuse to say, oh, it's a new system, the team's still adjusting? Like, you're playing your 30th game right now with this coach, right? Like, y'all have been together for, I don't know, 6 months. Like, when is it no longer an excuse? They're second in the Eastern Conference right now. They won the NBA Cup. So there's a lot of good. There's a lot of good, and I don't want to take that away from the Knicks, but I feel like they should be better. I think Ram would agree with that. I think a lot of New York Knicks fans would agree with that that this team is supposed to be the favorite out of the East, and yet you're 3.5 out. You're not finding any distance from Boston. You're only 1 game up on Boston. You're 1.5. Oh my goodness, you're 1.5 up on Toronto, and you're 3 games up on Philly.
This is what I'll say. I feel like most people thought that it would either be the Knicks or the Pistons for the 1 and 2 seed. Well, yes, the Knicks have been underperforming. A lot of teams have. And your hope is that, and I think it's a pretty reasonable hope that these players, the more they play, they're going to click together. And then, in the playoffs, they're going to hopefully run roughshod because the Knicks already beat the Pistons in a playoff series. The Celtics are not the team they were last year. They're missing their best player and key players from last year. So it's still, as long as they're in that striking range, as much as anybody, the regular season of basketball doesn't really matter. It doesn't. No. Just make the playoffs. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So I don't care too much about the standing. Just get to the playoffs and just win a couple matchups.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. Update from my side, just to kind of, finish off the New York Rangers thought. Rangers lost 8-4 tonight to the Ottawa Senators.
Wow.
So yeah, the woes continue in terms of defensive and goaltending for the New York Rangers. And Peter, if you were to guess, Rangers lost 8-4 tonight. Do you think they were playing at home, or do you think they were playing on the road tonight?
Well, the loss leads me to believe they're playing at home. However, scoring 4 goals at home, that's a lot of goals for them. I'm going to say away.
They were home. They were home, and I tend to agree there that scoring 4 goals is a little abnormal for the Rangers, who have been shut out a handful of times this season at Madison Square Garden. But they are currently 5-13-4.
Jesus.
At Madison Square Garden this season. I don't know. I don't know if it's just bad juju. I don't know, but it's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing. I know I've been a Rangers fan my whole life. I've been around for some bad years, but this is awful. Like, I think this might take the cake as the worst season for the New York Rangers in the last 2 decades.
History.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine him keeping a job much longer with how bad this team has been the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I guess that's a really good positive note to end the night.
It was a really negative show today, guys. Sorry, listen, we're New York sports fans.
I think it's right now. I think when it's just me and you, I don't think there's a lot of positivity. I think when you start getting Ram and Ash, there's a little bit more positivity thrown around. I think we're very skeptical when it comes to New York sports. But I think that's just sort of the general aura for New York sports right now. No men's major championships since 2009, unless you consider the NBA Cup this past.
Hey, the women got that shit on lockdown. You got an NBA, you got a WNBA championship, 2 women's league championships for soccer.
Yep.
They're making New York, New Jersey proud.
Yep. No, it is a tough time for New York sports, but the light at the end of the tunnel is right now the New York Knicks, which feels like we're in bizarro world. So we'll finish up with a New York sports talk. Knicks and Rangers, Yankees, Mets, Giants and Jets. Peter, do you have any final thoughts for tonight?
I do have some final thoughts for tonight. Real quick, just a little bit of shameless self-promotion. As some of you may or may not know, I am the vice president of a Napoli fan club here in the tri-state area. On January 25th, Juventus versus Napoli. For anyone that knows anything about soccer, Napoli in January won the Supercoppa. And the folks at Serie A were nice enough to lend us the trophy for our meet. So the trophy will be in attendance at our meet.
Wow.
There's no price to enter. It's, free. Just order food if you want. Listen, let me tell you, the restaurant's great. My mother is the biggest food critic in the world. She thinks it's the best pizza in the area and certainly the best bread. So if you're in the area, come on down. We'd love to have you. Just hit us with Forza Napoli, Juve Merda, and you will be welcome with open arms because we are a Napoli fan club. Also, I made that poster. Let me tell you, a little bit of Canva, a little bit of background remover, a little bit of autism, way better than anything AI has to offer you.
I think it's great. I think it's great. I love your skills.
They're not great, but they get the job done. As far as final thoughts for New York sports, I don't really have any. What I will say is this time tomorrow, me and this wonderful gentleman over here will be in the same place. So that'll be fun. Maybe we'll do it. Maybe we'll do a show from Tennessee.
Possibly.
We'll see.
I heard it's not. Don't make it sound like it's just you showing up. I mean, we got a whole crew. We got a whole crew here. I'm looking forward to the weekend. I know we've talked at length about meeting for the first time in a Mets game. So I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys to come down to Tennessee and see Middle Tennessee and Nashville. I don't know about you, but I've never met Ash in person. I've known Ash for 5 years now, maybe even 6. We've been podcasting together for a year. I am also excited. He is planning to come down to Nashville as well to actually meet him in person. So I'm looking forward to that. And as always, I am grateful for the work that Ash has done. Putting together BDS, all of the leagues, all of these podcasts, and giving us the platform to talk about New York sports. So grateful for him. Looking forward to meeting him in person and hanging out with you and Ram, you two knuckleheads, and Chris as well. So it'll be fun. It'll be a fun weekend. Just my quick final thought: Seton Hall basketball picked up the win against Georgia. It's not Georgia, Georgetown this past week, but falling to UConn and the Rams Huskies. Very close game, 69 to 64 against the Huskies. I think there was a lot of the game where UConn was dominant, but Seton Hall definitely showed some fire towards the end of the game. Started pulling back in just for UConn to give them the dagger in the last minutes. So I'm loving the effort from Seton Hall basketball. I'm hoping that they can continue their stride in the Big East and go Pirates. So those are my final thoughts. Yeah, go Pirates. Those are my final thoughts for this New York Power Hour. I appreciate everyone who is watching. Peter, I always appreciate you and talking New York sports with you. I'm glad you're feeling better. Glad we had you back this week. If you don't already subscribe to the YouTube page, I don't know, there's some button somewhere that you could click and subscribe. Find us on Twitter, find us on Instagram, join our Discord and just get bombarded with a bunch of messages. I don't know I don't know what the normal tags are at the end of this, and I'm just kind of rambling now.
Yeah, you're doing great. Subscribe. Tell your parents about us.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Tell your grandma that that we're really great. Tell your best friend who could also tell their best friend, and phone a friend. And I appreciate again. I appreciate everyone who's watching. I appreciate everyone who follows us. I guess we're just so lucky to be able to share this content. And I'm looking forward to talking with you next week, Peter. So we'll pick up next week.
Hopefully it's a more lively conversation.
Hopefully we get a full crew in here. I think we had a very lively conversation tonight.
No, we did. I just we got a little negative towards the end there.
It's New York sports. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? But I had to close this out again. I want to say thank you from Peter, Ram at home, and Ash at home, and myself, not Jeff. Thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you all next week.
Goodbye.